Hi guys, welcome back to another video from BioBuddy. As you all have seen other 3 videos about the digestive system. In this video we'll be talking about mainly the gastric juices, right? So what happens in stomach, there are many gastric juices which are being secreted, and due to these juices it helps in the proper digestion of the constituents which are coming through the food in our mouth, right? So in this we will be talking about the gastric juices. Let me just draw right. This is the esophagus, this is the stomach, this is the duodenum of the small intestine. I hope you understand this, because if you haven't watched the last videos, just go and watch them, and then only you can understand, because this it is acting as a ladder, right? You can understand both the videos simultaneously. So if you need to learn them, just go and watch those first, and then you can come back to this one. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe these videos, guys. So let's move on. What I was talking about was the gastric juices. So what are gastric juices? Gastric juices are the juices which are being secreted in the stomach, right? It is being secreted in the stomach, and about 1 to 3 liters per day is the secretion. It is highly acidic. These are certain properties which you need to note down, and the pH is 1 to 3 is the pH, right? So what is the composition? 90% it is water, and rest of the 10% is electrolytes, Pepsinogen, mucus, etc. Right? So first here we'll be talking about HCl, right? So what is the case of HCl? What is HCl? HCl is obviously very acidic, right? So if it is acidic, what is it doing? Killing the germs, maintaining a pH, it is maintaining a pH inside our stomach, because maintaining the pH inside the stomach is really very important. If you're not maintaining the pH, what will happen is the balance will not be made. If there is no balance, then obviously the digestion will be causing problems. There won't be proper digestion which is taking place usually, right? So what happens is HCl is present inside the stomach, and what happens is excess of HCl is released. It will be causing harm to our stomach? No, it won't be causing harm to our stomach, because our stomach consists of a 3 mm thick lining of mucus. Mucus helps, the one and only and main function of mucus is to protect the inner lining of the stomach by the action of HCl, right? So let's move on. I was talking about this, the pH is acidic, it helps in killing in germs and in maintaining the pH, and pH we had known as is acidic. 1 to 3 is the pH on a pH scale, right? So what happens now? We move on to, from the HCl, now we move on to Pepsinogen. Let me just get the duster. So if we move on to Pepsinogen, what is Pepsinogen now? What happens when we're talking about Pepsinogen? It should be clear in our mind that Pepsinogen is active, Pepsinogen is inactive. So what is pepsin? As I have already told you, it helps in the digestion of proteins inside the stomach. Helps in protein digestion inside the stomach. Helps in the protein digestion inside the stomach. But what happens if there is no food, right? HCl is being released normally, but when there is no HCl being released, it is in inactive form, and the inactive form is known as, let me just make it with another marker. Inactive form is known as Pepsinogen. It is present in the form of pepsinogen, but as soon as HCl comes, it is converted to pepsin, right? So pepsinogen is the inactive form and pepsin is the active form. So what is it happening? Why is it happening? Pepsinogen is the inactive form, and as soon as the HCl comes in contact, it becomes active and it's known as the pepsin, right? So what happens now? Pepsin helps in the digestion of proteins inside the stomach. Now we are clear with pepsin, right? What happens is inside we have talked about HCl, we have talked about pepsinogen, inactive, pepsin, active. Now let's move on to renin. You must have studied about renin. This renin is RENNIN. What is renin now? Renin is also a digestive enzyme which is present inside our stomach, but it is not present in adults. It is absent in adults. Why is it absent in adults? One reason we'll talk about in the later video, but right now I want you to know that it is absent in adults, but it is present in case of infants. Present in infants. Why? Because in adults the pH is very high, 1, 2, 3, right? But in infants the pH is around 4 to 5. So what happens? The only feature of renin is that it is activated in this pH, not in the very high pH. It is activated in the low pH. So what happens? It is active in low pH. You can write it down because you need to learn that. And renin, what is renin doing? As soon as the renin is present, as soon as you can see as soon as a child, we just pat the child here after drinking milk, what happens is the milk, some amount of milk comes out of the mouth. And what is it in the form of? It is a curdled form, curdle or coagulated form. So you can write down helps in coagulation or curdling of milk. And what is the milk enzyme which is curdled, which is being curdled? That is known as CASEIN, that is casein. Casein enzyme is present in milk, which is being curdled and coagulated, and is giving it a through the mouth. When the milk comes out, it is in this form. And what is it doing? It is being done by renin. What is being coagulated? Casein. It is a milk enzyme, right? So it is present only in case of the infants, right? So now let's move on to gastric lipase. Let me just erase all this and we can keep writing. Let's move on to gastric lipase. What is gastric lipase doing now? What is the main function of gastric lipase? We have studied this gastric lipase. What is gastric lipase doing? Gastric lipase is basically digesting the lipids. You can write down digests lipids, right? It is converting the triacyl glycerol, that is known as TAG. This is known as TAG. So it is being converted to monoacyl glycerol plus 2 fatty acids, right? So this is the monoacyl glycerol, also known as MAG, and this is the fatty acid, right? So triacyl glycerol is being converted to monoacyl glycerol plus fatty acids. So this is being done by the gastric lipase, right? It is helping in the digestion of lipids. This is done. Now what happens? When we were studying about salivary glands, I told you about the two types of enzymes which are present in the salivary glands. First is the salivary amylase and second is the lingual lipase. So now here comes the lingual lipase. Along with the gastric lipase, the lingual lipase plus gastric lipase helps in the digestion in the stomach. Usually this enzyme is present in the salivary gland, but it is functional when it comes down to the stomach, right? So you can write down, in the salivary gland it is non-functional, and when it comes to the stomach it becomes functional, right? So this is how the digestion is being taking place. Now next, let's talk about the intrinsic factors. What is the meaning of intrinsic factor? Intrinsic factors help in the absorption of vitamin B12. Let me just write it down. Intrinsic factor what it does is it helps in absorbing vitamin B12. Now what happens is, as soon as the vitamin B12 is being absorbed, what happens? B12 absorb water. So what is it doing? It is helping in the proper functioning and formation of RBCs. This in turn helps in formation of RBCs, right? So RBCs are being properly formed if vitamin B12 is being properly absorbed. And how is it being absorbed? With the help of intrinsic factors which are present in the stomach. So mainly the absorption of vitamin B12 is happening in the stomach through the intrinsic factors, and later it is helping in the formation of RBCs. And now where the RBCs are being formed, in the bone marrow, right? So what happens is, now let's move on, that if all this is not being functional, so what happens? There is a disease which is known as the chronic gastritis. What happens in chronic gastritis? No HCl is being produced. If no HCl is being produced, it is known as achlorohydria. Achlorohydria. Right? So achlorohydria is happening because in chronic gastritis, what is happening? The HCl producing parietal cells are destroyed. The HCl producing parietal cells are destroyed. Right? So if these cells will be destroyed, then obviously either the HCl production will be zero, it won't be produced, so it will be causing achlorohydria, or it can cause anemia. How it is causing anemia? Because what happens then? Castle's intrinsic factor won't be functional. If Castle's intrinsic factor won't be functional, vitamin B12 won't be properly absorbed. If vitamin B12 won't be properly absorbed, RBC formation won't be taking place. And if RBC formation won't be taking place, obviously we will be at the lack of blood. And if blood lacks, what happens? The disease called anemia will be taking place. So these are the after effects or the diseases which are related to the stomach problems: achlorohydria, anemia, chronic gastritis. These are the things, right? So in this video we have studied about the digestive systems, mainly the stomachs. What is the gastric lipase concentration, what is it made up of, what are the constituents, how is it helping in digestion, how is the lipids being converted to TAG, from the TAG they're being how are they being converted to MAG and fatty acids, right? So this is all for today, and let's see you in the next video. I hope you guys have liked this video, and if you have any doubt you can just put down in the comment section below. I'm sure I'll look it up and just clear all your doubts. Thank you. Have a nice day, guys. Take care.